be here today with some people that are keen to share their insights that should be very invaluable for young talents in the logistics industry. So the session called Preparing Future-Ready Talents for the Transport and Logistics Industry is organized by Enterprise Singapore and is intended at helping people that are getting into the industry understand what's required, what can set them for success, especially in such moments when a lot of activities are happening in this space. So I'm very happy to be here today. My name is Felipe. I work for Rainmaking. I spent about 20 years of my life in supply chain. So this is really my passion beyond my work. And I have the privilege to have here with me Roger from SFS and Kenny from Ninja Van. So if you both can just very quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll have some words from ESG.
Hey, thanks, Felipe. This is Roger, and hi everyone. I'm the founder of SFS Global Logistics. So we operate in 12 countries across the Asia Pacific region. So basically, besides doing general cargo, we specialize in pharma cold chain, which is make up 50% of our overall business. So this is a very brief introduction of myself. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, Kenny here. I'm currently the Deputy Chief Operating Officer for Ninja Van Singapore. So Ninja Van, we pride ourselves as a tech-enabled logistics company, and we are on a mission to actually provide hassle-free delivery services for businesses of all sizes across Southeast Asia. Right. So we currently have offices in 6 countries, and launched back in 2014. We started operations right here in Singapore. And right now we have been the region's largest and fastest growing last mile logistics company. So we partner with around 35,000 merchants, and we are delivering almost 1,000 parcels every minute. So yeah, I think we're looking forward to some of the exciting opportunities we have in the industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenny. And just a little bit about Rainmaking that I was saying. I have just recently joined Rainmaking. Rainmaking is specialized in bringing innovation through corporations, through partnering with startups. We have a connection for a strong ecosystem of startups and have a passion for innovation and driving some of these adoptions through the industry. So this topic is very close from our heart. So now some words from our Enterprise Singapore from Mr. Lau Chung Ming. We have a video from him.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be here with you this morning. Welcome to the You've Got This, Preparing Future-Ready Talents for the Transport and Logistics Industry Institute of Higher Learning engagement session. Singapore is one of the world's most connected countries, strategically located along the world's major trade routes. For instance, we have one of the busiest ports in the world. We offer connection to more than 600 ports globally, with 200 shipping lines passing through. Annually, more than 130,000 ships call at the Port of Singapore. Singapore's preeminence as a global trade and connectivity hub did not happen by chance. Strategic vision and leadership and commitment and hard work by our people have played an important role in enabling Singapore to be prepared for the future and thrive in a dynamic global industry. The COVID-19 pandemic has severely disrupted global supply chains. The impact of COVID-19 on Singapore's economy has been significant. To ensure that the livelihood and lives of our Singaporeans are unaffected, our local enterprises have been working hard to keep essential goods moving. For instance, logistics companies such as Boxing, Shalom Movers, Lim Siang Huat, and Pacific Integrated Logistics supported our supermarkets' quick replenishments of supplies from the distribution centers to their retail stores last year. Singapore companies also have the capabilities to support and help other countries. One example is SWAT Mobility, a smart mobility solution provider, to offer on-demand transport of COVID-19 test specimens from government clinics to a central laboratory for testing in Jakarta, Indonesia. Beyond the pandemic, Enterprise Singapore is committed to work with enterprises to strengthen supply chains orchestration from or through Singapore. One such effort is the Rainmaking Accelerator for supply chain resilience that was launched in July this year. Through the initiative, we aim to drive co-innovation of solutions in the areas of end-to-end visibility, automation, data analytics, and sustainability to tackle supply chain issues. While we continue to remain very open to the world and drive more economic activities, we will need to deal with challenging demographic trends. In a 2020 study by the EDB, Enterprise Singapore, Workforce Singapore, and Skills Future Singapore, it was revealed that I 4.0 technology adoption will transform existing jobs and spur the emergence of new job roles. Given the speed of innovation and industry change, we want to help prepare our young talents like yourself who may be joining our workforce and enterprises to be future ready. As part of efforts, today we have invited two of our inspiring local enterprises, SFS Global and NinjaVan, to share about their industry experience. You can expect to hear fruitful insights on how they manage the dynamically changing customer demands and deal with disruptions like COVID-19, and how they plan to work with young talents like yourself. We are very heartened to know that they are already working with NP to offer internship opportunities. One of the great lessons of the COVID-19 pandemic is the importance of resilience. We know that change is unprecedented in today's increasingly interconnected world, as well as huge interdependence. What is certain is how we work together to overcome challenges and seize new opportunities to navigate the uncertainties ahead. We look forward to all of you, our young talent, to join us in the transport and logistics sector as we embark on this journey to build resilience for the future. I wish all of you a very fruitful discussion today, and thank you for your attention.
Very good. What an inspiring message, right? Such a great way to start our discussions today. So going straight into what we are here to discuss, I would like to first ask our friend Kenny to talk a little bit about what hard skills you see that new talents should bring to the industry, and especially, Ken, if you can talk that from the perspective of the change that you're seeing, right? The requirements that the enterprise are needing in their businesses.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the industry has changed quite a bit in recent years. So I think 5 years ago when I joined NinjaVan, a lot of it was just the setting up the groundwork, the foundation. So there were a lot of budgeting, there were a lot of resource planning, right? There were a lot of meeting capacity. So there were a lot of hiring. So over the 5 years, we realized that the dependency has since shifted, right? There's a paradigm shift that we actually require a lot more hard skills such as data literacy, right? Being able to write queries, being able to process a huge amount of data, to kind of spot trends, do data analysis in order to build a solid business case to convince the management, right, to allocate resources to drive certain projects or certain innovations. Yeah, and these are the skills that I don't have, right? I did not acquire them in school. So it took me quite a while to catch up. But I think some of these hard skills are very valuable to come by. Where I am a little bit more fortunate to be equipped with actually project management skills, because that was kind of my background. My initial jobs before I joined NinjaVan was doing project management in banking industry. So a lot of the experience from there allowed me to apply it across to NinjaVan, and when we first started as a very small company. So yeah, I think having project management skills, having good data analytics skills, and of course, business reasoning. I think these are some of the good skills to have.
Very, very good. So yeah, absolutely right. So leveraging the strength that new generations bring with technology in special to complement, with the experience that probably those that have been a bit longer in the industry, that's a major theme. And how about soft skills, Roger? If you can talk about, what are the characteristics, the traits, the abilities that young talents can add to the businesses.
Yeah, so like Kenny, 10 years ago when I started this industry, I was in an ex-military officer, so I was assigned a regular for life, and then I resigned, and then I went to the freight forwarding industries, and those days, it's all hardcore, hard skills, nothing else. Fast forward today, if you focus again on hard skills, then you close shop as soon as you start it. So I think that for today's with COVID-19, it taught us a very important lesson. If digitalization is super key for us to operate in this current environment. So the soft skills that I would suggest to the students to pick up things like advanced Excels, look into blockchain, look into technologies that example, you can do track and trace without software. These are new emerging technologies that actually help the supply chain. And now, with the COVID-19 that we have to work in shift and separate remote offices, and being in this industry where we have to physically touch the cargo, some processes needs to be automated, like custom clearance. Those days is checking physically line by line. Nowadays, there's a thing called robotic process automation, where you can actually run the robots to check correctness. This will eliminate all the fines from customs if you make error. So the soft skills from the students will be acquire things that outside what you learn in school, and all the technical skills for freight forwarding. That's very key to your success. Thank you.
Very nice, Roger. I would add to that, if I may, just two particular insights nowadays that we see with all the changes happening. I think there is an element of just knowing how to manage your own anxiety and the frustration of eventually, I'm sure we've seen this, right? You would have a perfect distribution plan that would be done February 2020, before COVID. And probably 2 months later, we had to scrap it and do something completely new, because when COVID came, everything changed. So I think the ability for someone to deal with this change and the frustration they might bring, I find it very important. And with that, also a bit of the knowing how to experiment and not getting too frustrated with the failures, but instead, learning from them, using them as a platform for growth. So, and I'm happily impressed with how young talents probably come with more of that than people from my generation would have. It's more like black and white. Just a great thing, I think, for this generation to leverage, since they are a little bit more experimental. Very good. So on technology, if I can go back to Kenny, what are the main emerging technologies that you see that have the potential of a great impact in the industry, say in the next 5 to 10 years, right? There are a lot of things out there, a lot of nice words. What are the ones that you see as greater potential of really transforming the industry?
Yeah, so I think COVID-19 taught us a very hard lesson, right? So when the circuit breaker hit us in Singapore, the entire network was overloaded. So a lot of the management, we sat down together and we were trying to rack our brains to think of what are the most immediate short-term ways for us to expand capacity, right? To leverage on untapped resources that's available locally, because we were expecting the borders to be closed entirely back then, right? So we were starting, we had a lot of crazy ideas, in fact, right, that we put out there. Things like, can we buy drones, right? National Day, they are able to use drones to do a light show. Are we able to use those similar drones to do deliveries, right? So that we do not need to leverage on humans, because everyone might be down with COVID, right? How about autonomous modes of deliveries, right? Things like your robotic deliveries, unmanned deliveries. And we realized that we might not even need to go that far, right? Even something like having able to deliver a set number of parcels into a locker system might already help us alleviate some of the resource crunch that we were facing back then. So I think the government has also put in significant effort to implement locker systems. around Singapore, and that is something that we are paying a lot of attention to, and we are very involved in the entire development. I think the key idea is interesting in the sense that when I was much younger, I remember my grandparents telling me like, oh, back in the kampong days, we all received letters from the mailman directly. They'll hand over the letters to us, right? Because everyone knows each other, right? So they just hand it over to us. But by the time I grew up, we received letters from our letterboxes. We will have a key, we'll open it up, we'll take our letters from there. Right now, I see delivery going through the same phase, right? We have delivery personnel showing up at your doorstep and handing over you the parcels. But in the very near future, I think we can expect parcels to be deposited into lockers, whereby we can then collect it at our own convenience, right? So I think these are some of the technology and infrastructure that we can pay attention to. Another big project that we are also working on is electrifying our fleet, right? So I think on a daily basis, we utilize 600 to 700 vehicles in Singapore alone, all right? And how do we then electrify the entire fleet, ensuring that they are the right build and make and having enough charging points around Singapore to support our island-wide operations. So these are some uncharted territory that we have yet to explore into as well. But yeah, I think really exciting projects that's in the horizon.
Very, very good, Kenny. And I imagine that the recent disruptions, right, that happen in the industry, if anything, are accelerating some of these changes, right? So very interesting to hear these trends. I think from my personal perspective, Kenny, I hear a lot of ideas like that, which I think for quite a while, you know, have been brewing in the minds of people in supply chain, in innovation, but not until you experience some pain in the system, you get enough momentum, support, critical mass to make them happen, right? So I'm very bullish that the theme of supply chain resilience, which was put at test in the last 18 months, gained traction. And of course, as painful as it was, and it still is for many, so it's a terrible thing, the pandemic, of course. But I think there are good things that can, you know, come from these days, from people understanding the potential of working on improving resilience with some of the things that you have just mentioned. So thank you so much. And now, Roger, of course, to do different things, right? Like some of these cool technologies that Kenny was referring to, you probably need different, not only different skills, but even different roles. So do you see new roles in supply chain emerging that we don't see in today's traditional org structures?
Yeah, I think the future for supply chain is still very lacking in the market, particularly in Asia Pacific. Is a control tower function. So you have these global pharmaceutical companies or global other kind of companies who have who import from US or Europe into the Asia Pacific region. Then every single local officers, they have to have manpower to look into the documentation, the invoice packing list, and then they need to plan for logistics. Then they also have the inventory management, whether you have enough supplies in Singapore to distribute in Asia, and then do all the stock counts. So when I pitched these projects before COVID-19, this kind of business was very labor intensive. You basically need to have human physically checking hard copies of PDF, and then tons of versions of Excel sheet to manage the whole supply chain. And then when finally, after all the due diligence, all the audit, we finally won the contract. This COVID hit us very badly, and then this thing called circuit breaker start coming in. That really caught me into a panic mode, because if I fail this, then the name of the company will go down the drain forever. So that's why I researched into Mr. Google, and I tried to find out what technology there are in the market. And then I found out there's a company, there's a technology called like a cloud-based Excel sheet, where you can actually do a real-time updates of the timelines and different milestone happens real time. And for multiple countries, you go in and then you can see real time what we are doing from 7 countries across Asia Pacific. So these are the technologies that we have to really adapt and force change, that no longer logistics, especially my kind of business, freight forwarding, where it's a really hardcore skill sets, touching a lot of papers, touching the cargoes. Today's business is more about control towers, and it's something we are building up in the near future. I think this will be the in thing. But currently, this is still very lacking in the industry.
Thank you so much, Roger. I think that's a great insight for the audience here, right? So if you haven't come across control towers, something interesting to look at, definitely very trendy in the industry. My 2 cents on this topic of new roles is not an answer. It's more of a question that I'm very curious. Is whether we are going to see data engineers, data scientists actually be core part of what you do, exactly to leverage a lot of what Kenny was referring to earlier, right? With the need to make sense of that, or whether this is going to be sitting outside the traditional supply chain with the supporting IT functions. So I'm curious to see, where the center of gravity is going to be in that space. So very, very interested. We see already young talents in supply chain coming with that desire to be data scientists. So I don't have that answer yet. If anyone would have one, I'll be curious. Very good. So now a question about specifically on talents and how we attract and retain and make sure that they are energized to work in the space of supply chain, right? So obviously when people are going through the career decisions, what they're going to do, there are plenty of options, finance, marketing, and so on. So if you can share, Kenny, just your insight, what do you think is the main value proposition for a young talent? Why should they want to be in supply chain, and what opportunities could be out there for them?
Yeah, so I think to also write on Roger's point about how logistics used to be a lot of manual hard work. Yeah, so I remember very vividly when I first told my parents, like, oh, look, I'm going to join this new startup company that does logistics. And the first thing was they looked at me very peculiar. I was like, why do you want to work in a grimy warehouse environment with half-naked men moving parcels, right? You're still young. You should do something that's sexy, right? Something that has great potential. Thankfully, I managed to prove them otherwise. I think we need to, first of all, move away from the stigma that logistics is no longer how it used to be probably 10, 20 years ago. Right now, logistics is heavily focused a lot on technology, on automation, engineering, right? And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of data analysis and the physical handling of the parcels, or even the physically moving of the goods from point A to point B. There's definitely still a strong element to it, but as compared to the proportion in which it used to be involved in terms of the whole entire chain, yes, the dependency on those processes are much lesser right now. So I think eliminating that kind of stigma and understanding that supply chain is much bigger than just moving parcels around. I think that's the first step on to actually attract any new talents. In terms of retention, I think that's where things can get a little bit more interesting. I think that is largely to do with having a strong HR engagement team as well. I think one very effective way that I've realized is if we can kind of illustrate to everyone how each physical product has to go through many touch points across the entire supply chain, either in one form or another, be it from procurement to freight forwarding, like what Roger's team is doing, to warehousing, to last mile, in which we are operating in. The application is diverse. Every single product that we're holding on our hands has to go through that in one form or another. So I think if you can showcase how people can influence those processes, how they can value it and apply their expertise into specific parts of the supply chain, yeah, I think that's where we can then encourage people and motivate them and groom them into subject matter experts for those specific domains. So I think one of the more interesting things that we do internally in NinjaVan is we encourage culture of rotation, right? So that we actually expose our individual members of the organization to get involved in different aspects of the company, right? And then that's how they actually understand the pain points. They can then learn some of the soft skills that we talked about earlier about stakeholder management. And I think one of these great programs that we have is the operations rotation program, whereby fresh grads can join us under a year program. We'll take them among 3 to 4 core teams, right? So that they have a good broad understanding of how things are being run. So hopefully when after that program, they then have an option and a choice to then decide, say, okay, I would like to specialize in this particular field and thus achieving the retention goal that we have in mind in the first place. Yeah, so yeah, I think all in all, in average, a parcel goes through at least 30 to 50 touch points before it reaches the end consumer. So letting every individual stakeholder know that they have an equal role to play. And I always encourage my team members, right, that they have to work with me and not so much for me, so that they can actually get to see how they can directly contribute and influence the end goal of delighting our customers at the end of the day. Yeah, and this involves a huge cross-continent relay, right? Everyone needs to play their part. I always like to comment to say, like, in order for a parcel to reach a customer, the stars and the moon and the sun has to all align, right? Everything has to be perfect before things can happen. So hopefully this drives the kind of ownership they have in their jobs, and and they feel the passion to continue to retain in this industry, and we then get to tap on a lot more talent.
Amazing insights, Kenny. Thank you so much, and also for the personal journey, right? In the moment of deciding the career, I also think I think very similar. I think there could be for some people the stigma that's a kind of a back office, less exciting work. But I think not only the disruption that we're seeing now, but even if you see the major winners in the last 20 years. You know, companies like Amazon, even Apple, if you think, there are things that they do, but I think the way they are winning the game, in the opinion of many people, is actually through logistics, right? It's by planning things so well that you know that you're going to have your product here and there. That's proving the value of amazing things that can be done, really, really amazing things that can be done in our space. So yeah, completely agree. Now, Roger, I would like to ask you to share a little bit with us something. First, I must thank you. I really mean thank you and all SFS and others that have helped, vaccines get into our arms. Certainly a challenge that the industry, stood up to without any notice at all. And I'm sure that would have created a lot of learnings from the challenge that you experienced. So if you can talk a little bit about, how was it? I'll be very, very curious to understand how was it, especially on cold chains, right? To move all these vaccines that had to be stored at different temperatures and still make it so quickly so that many people today can be safer with the vaccines.
Yeah, so before the vaccines was even invented, so we had this COVID infections globally. And then the news came that the vaccines potentially can be at minus 20 degrees Celsius constant, minus 70 degrees constant, or even plus 2 to plus 8 degrees Celsius. So the challenge was thrown to SFS. We need to work in about vaccine distribution in Cambodia, potentially in Singapore, and also in Southeast Asia. And one of the things that was very, everyone's thought about, how do you ship massive amount of vaccines from for the manufacturing countries to the other countries. But no one focused on the last mile. And that's where I got a big headache. So what box to use? What temperature range should I invest in? And which vaccine is going to eventually be ready first? So all this was unknown. So guess what? We invest in everything. Just backing in which one actually comes in. And then Pfizer was the first one to come in at minus 70. And then followed by Moderna, and now of course the rest, AstraZeneca, Sinovac, etc. So, but what we did was, it's no longer about carrying the cargo, putting the vaccines in and going. It's now about talking about real-time technology. You need to make sure that these are vaccines that are going to save lives. Any temperature deviation, that means that whatever vaccines you administer to the population is not effective. So this is things that the customers look at it very, very seriously, especially the governments. So we overnight, we built a lot of infrastructure of technology, real-time technology that we can access real-time when we deliver the vaccines. And this comes from various ranges. The limitation is always the packaging. It's not enough. Most of the suppliers of thermal packaging are all from Europe. That's why we have to be creative to do hybrid solutions to address these various temperature ranges, and not forgetting we also have the developed technologies where we don't actually touch paper. So when we do delivery to the hospitals, or we do deliveries to the patient's home, no one want to touch pens or paper given by the courier company because of this COVID infection. So we have to deliver technology where we took picture of the product when we arrive using GPS on our mobile phone. So these are things which we already thought about to overcome all these challenges. And then we have to deal with very remote areas of deliveries, where you have to go by a truck, and then you have to go by boats to reach the final destination. So these are things that we have to really look at how to mitigate the risk, the kind of packaging to use, the kind of technology to implement to manage that the vaccines are delivered safely. So it's already we open a lot of innovative solutions during this challenging period.
Yeah, absolutely. The loop kind of closes, right? It's very interesting, like we were discussing earlier, because of one big challenge, you get exposed to solutions that probably you wouldn't, right? And they could help even the problem that Kenny was describing, or the opportunity of unmanned delivery and so on. So, problems that would be seen as otherwise not connected. So I think it also proves the point of the power of open innovation, which I think now in today's world, a lot of cases like what you described, Roger, and that connect with the case from Kenny, right? That they look at different. So through open innovation, people talking and sharing problems and solutions, your problem could be someone else's solution, and so on. Very, very powerful these days. And definitely something that I think the new generations will have the privilege to come in a different world, right? Probably when we started, the three of us started, it was silent, right? You work in your company, you keep your secret there, and you don't talk to anyone. So something else about skills, ability to navigate, use the tools of communication to find solutions out there. So very, very insightful, Roger. Now, Kenny, we are still suffering, of course, a lot of the consequences from disruptions from COVID. To what extent do you think the impact and disruptions of COVID are temporary, and 1 year from now or 2 years, I don't know, we're going to go back to where we were? Or do you think that this created some change and we never go back to life how it used to be?
Yeah, so I actually think that the damage has been done. I think there's no way we can revert to how we were 2 years pre-COVID. And honestly, if just from my own personal opinion, even if we had the choice, I wouldn't turn back time and go back to pre-COVID period, specifically for the industry. And the reason why is because as an organization, it has transformed across the whole hierarchy of processes, right? From HR to finances to operations to business development, how we go out to get sales, all the way down to how finance bills and payroll, etc. And that's largely because pre-COVID, a lot of our BCP plans were just paper plans, right? They were just something that we formulated, and then we kept a copy in our drive in the cloud, and we have never touched it or never reviewed it until COVID happened, where we had to pull out all these resources and really scrutinize them and look them through to see whether it makes any sense. And since then, I think we have gone through at least 10 revisions for BCP, especially to keep in time and keep up to date with what the government is trying to push for as well. So that also kind of kept the entire organization on their toes. So everyone is ready to react when the news is dropped. And I've started to see very, very good engagement and a very, very good reaction from the team. In the beginning, everyone was a little bit hesitant. Everyone were not embracing the change as quickly as we would like them to. But yeah, I think we have seen a very stark difference from when we first started. Right now is, whenever we send out an email, everybody just jumps on it. Everybody takes care of their own team first, then they look out for other teams, and then before we even engage them, actually everything is done. And then they're like, okay, we're ready for business, right? Let's start. So I think that kind of energy and that kind of motivation, right, to ensure that we are always on top of everything. I think that spirit is something that we have taken away from this entire COVID situation, and I actually like to see it persist, right, in the company, and then not lose that kind of learnings that we have gotten from the hard way, right, throughout the past 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it gives us the real experience to see that we are more capable of doing things that look at impossible, right? So what Roger was describing with distribution of vaccines, I remember just over 1 year ago, everyone would say mission impossible, we can't do it, and now we are sitting over 80% of people in Singapore vaccinated and so on. So yeah, very inspiring message, Kenny. I think in terms of how we keep the momentum about these good things that we learned about the organization, right? Our ability to react, to respond to challenges and so on. So yeah, hope we can continue to see this. Just a few more questions, and then I'm going to start with Q&A from the participants. So I see some coming already, so thank you so much. And we got some from before the session too. So some of those we might have covered already. I'll try to get the ones that we eventually did not address. But before that, just one more on climate change. So to you, Roger, if you can talk about what do you think about the impact of climate change to our industries, to transport and logistics. And again, just to give a bit of flavor of my personal perspective, I think the industry really already kind of stepped up to the challenge, right? So if you think about the IMO regulations on sulfur emission for ships that had to come into play by 2020, and they happened. And now we have more aggressive targets for carbon emission by 2030, and they look impossible. But like Kenny was saying, things that look impossible, we do. So my feeling is that we got it. We understand the impact that we create and the contribution that we can bring positively by taking affirmative actions in terms of impact to climate change. What do you think, Roger? Do you think the industry is there, and what else can be done?
Yeah, definitely. Today, if you go after the big companies, if you don't have a topic about climate change, right, then you're out of the invitation to code. So they look into this topic, and then they want to look at your company processes. What have you done, to reduce your carbon emission? So in my kind of business, where we do a lot of pharma cold chain, where we do a lot of thermal packaging solutions. So back then, around 5-10 years ago, packagings are all single use. Use it one time, you throw away, and mostly it's styrofoam, and this is not biodegradable, so it's very harmful to the environment. Today, with the advancement of technology, you have a reusable high-performance boxes where you can reuse it. But the problem when you talk about sustainability, it's always come with costs, because when you can reuse means you need to do a reverse logistics. So what we did was we built up the whole infrastructure within the Asia Pacific region, where we can, we send from Singapore to Taiwan or Singapore to Australia. The team from Australia can reuse the box to another country. So we built up a closed loop ecosystem of being sustainable. So these are things which our customer are very happy that companies, a local company like SFS could imagine and create such kind of ecosystem. And this allows the pharma companies to also broadcast to their clients that when we engage with suppliers, the suppliers are also very environmental conscious, that they do look into reducing all this carbon footprint. We even went beyond, it's all about technology and being in this industry. Logistics is about solutions. It's not a dead job where you do look at papers every day or touching cargo every day. It's always thinking out of the blue. So to demonstrate ourselves, we do a lot of coaching deliveries, and we do in small bands where we have to go to hospitals. And most of the time, this based on good distribution practice, the vehicle needs to be kept at 15 to 25 degrees. The problem with the technology right now is that it is very old technology. So the moment you reach the car park, you have to turn off the engine because you don't want to emit the carbon monoxide. And the entire temperature of the vehicle is just goes off. So what we did, we insulated with a high performance vacuum insulation panels, and this actually keep the truck cool for at least 30 minutes. So this way we eliminate and reduce the carbon footprint. So these are technologies we explain to our clients that how we innovate ourselves, how we differentiate, and this really get us into the foothold into the client.
Excellent, very, very good. Thank you so much for sharing the insights. Definitely a topic that I think we can say, right, went from being something from outside, you know, our discussions to priority in most of the KPIs that we would have, right? So very, very topical. Another very topical point for our industry, I think, is safety. Of course, we move a lot of goods around. We move a lot of people around. We have people moving goods. We have things moving, and unfortunately, people get hurt in different circumstances. And our industry is very, very dependent on humans, and such accidents happen. I have a view, though, and I wanted to hear Kenny's opinion about it. That, however, at least in my observation, the last 30 years, the industry stepped up a lot to that, and the number of accidents that were initially not even recorded, you know, they would happen, and you would hear something here and there, and then they started to be very heavily recorded, and people talk about it. It went from, oh God, it happened, we should not talk about it, to let's talk, to learn, to prevent. And then numbers dropped, last time I checked, in the industry by more than 100 times through the last 30 years. So I wanted to get your opinion, Kenny. Do you agree with that? Do you think that, you know, the industry is doing a good job in that area, and what else can be done to reduce accidents?
Yeah, so I think if we look purely just at frameworks or guidelines or certifications, right? Things like your Be Safe, your ISO, safety has always been a component there. But I would say it's probably ranked third or fourth, you know, in the midst of all the entire items. But over the years, I think safety has taken a new role, right? Back then, when we were talking about safety, it's things like, oh, when you're in the warehouse, you need to have a safety vest so that people can see you. You're wearing safety shoes, you know, to ensure that you check all your equipment before you start work, end shift, like really basic safety to safeguard our people. But I think over the years that has already transformed, right? Largely, again, due to COVID-19. The individual down to the last man on the ground, they need to know exactly what happens if one of their peers gets a report that they are tested COVID positive, right? They need to do proper vaccine declaration, whether or not they're vaccinated. If they're not, how do we then put in safeguards to ensure that they have regular ART testing, etc. So I would say safety now has become second nature for everyone, at least within our organization. And I do see it applying across the general industry as well. Whenever we go to other, some of our shippers' residences or even their operating grounds, they will expect us to follow the same or kind of be involved in some of their safety protocols. So I think the entire industry is aligned. Safety is actually one of the much there's definitely increased focus in terms of safety. And I think for us in NinjaVan, I think we from day one, we already knew that our biggest asset in the organization is actually our employees, right? So every process, every policy, every guideline we put in place always have our people on top of mind, and we ensure that we've taken care of their safety, their well-being, and then we safeguard that before we talk about operations or even money or even costs, etc. So we always put our people first. So I think this became really natural for us when COVID kicked in. Everybody knew that all these processes are in place to take care of them even further. So yeah, I think continuously we will start to see a lot more of this engagement across the entire industry, and yeah, we will then just react accordingly and ensure that every down to the last man, right? We're just taking care of everyone.
Very good. Thanks so much, Kenny. Thank you so much. Now, let's take some questions from the Q&A here. So this first one, probably I would like to hear from both of you. That's what I have in the channel. What are the roles and responsibilities in a logistics company? So, that we understand what are the main departments, how are they structured? So, Roger, if you want to start with how it is in SFS or other companies you are familiar with.
So the basic freight forwarding setup in the logistics industry is you basically have the sales team, you have the operations teams. So the operations team, you break up into the air freight department, the sea freight department, the warehousing, and the transport. And of course, you have the finance team where you do all the billing. So essentially, this is the key functions within the freight forwarding industry. But this is basic. But nowadays, if you want to come to the freight forwarding industry, it's beyond that. You need to have soft skills. You need to know about technology. You need how to apply technology to simplify the processes and be more efficient. So it really depends on what kind of focus you want. If you want to go into sales, it's a different ballgame altogether. You know everything. You know how to talk. You know how to convince customers. If you're operations, you need to be very attention to the detail. If you're finance, then it's always about money. You need to advise the management, the receivables, the payables, and then the forecast, the budgeting, etc. So that's an overview of the logistics industry.
Thank you, Roger. Kenny?
Yeah, so I think for us it's largely similar. So everything starts from the upstream where sales and business development, right, they get involved in procuring or actually engaging, signing up customers, right, or shippers. And then it will naturally flow in through our operations team. All right, so I think the good thing is the backbone of our company is tech, right? So we have a large product team that is driving the engineering and the tech developments that's going behind the back end in terms of our systems. So we have a very large tech team that's supporting all the operations. And then core operations come in. So for us, core operations consists of the warehousing team, those people who are processing and sorting parcels, and of course the fleet team, the team that is in charge of collecting parcels from our customers, our sellers, and delivering them to the end consignees, right? So there's actually two sub-teams in that department itself. And then along with that, we have the support operations, right? That's actually where I largely am involved in. So support operations already consists of 7 departments, including your recovery team to handle any exception, your customer service team, right? And then your audit team, your internal audit teams, right? Or we even have a department known as the Kaizen office, right? To drive continuous improvement, optimization, reducing waste, and ensuring that we are compliant with whatever ISO standards that we are held liable to, right? Held accountable to. So yeah, I think support operations already form a large part of it, right? And within itself, we also have a new business unit team. So those are the team that will really I always send them out into the field, to come back with new, fresh ideas on how we can push the limit of the industry a little bit further. All right, so there's already many functions within the support ops itself, and then it goes into the other functions like IT, ensuring our laptop is running, ensuring our Wi-Fi is up, and down to the HR and finance team. We also have a dedicated business analytics team that's helping us to provide the data that we need to look into various parts of the whole entire supply chain. Yeah, so I think if you were to talk specifically about roles and responsibility, there's definitely a whole range of it. I think what's important to actually know is how do we then be somewhat like a jack of all trades, right? We try and expose ourselves and know a little bit of everything, right? I was a little bit fortunate because when I joined NinjaVan, I joined as an operations manager, right? So I came in under operations. 1 year later, when the company was not doing so well and they needed someone to front the shippers, I actually rotated over to the commercial teams. So I was out there getting sales, doing account management, speaking to individual clients, ensuring that they're happy, giving them my phone number so that they can call me 24/7, right? And I can respond to their inquiries. And then I move on to then just doing partnerships. There's only managing top 20 sellers, right? Your Lazada, your Amazon, your Shopee, the key clients for us. And then when COVID hit, I immediately switched back to operations because that's where we needed the most help with. So I mean, I was quite fortunate enough to rotate between all these very diverse roles and departments within the company itself. But that is where I actually equipped myself with the necessary skill sets and knowing what the other team is saying, right? Because I always like to say, you guys are talking, but you're not talking in the same language, right? Operations never understands what sales is trying to tell them, and sales doesn't understand what operations is trying to say, right? So being able to really get on the same frequency, get on the same page and understanding this, I think that is where knowing the roles and responsibility within the company is helpful and useful to doing a job better.
Very nice, Kenny, very nice. And I think my point is similar to that, is that I think the silos and the lines, you know, that would define each of these groups, which like Roger described, but they are very similar probably across the industry, right? But these lines are getting more blurred, they're getting less firm, right? And you see business development starting from sometimes operations, and you see changes in the way operation happens from sales. When some salesperson finds a different way to do something because of a need of a customer, or when someone in operations find a different way to do something that can be sold differently, right? So if anything is getting more connected within the organization. So I think that these hybrid roles that will merge sales with operations, with IT, with innovation, even with human resources, like you're defining, right? And it's very, very critical for us to see how people are operating. So I think it's is the main thing that, you know, might reshape. I think the pillars are always going to be kind of those, but we are going to have people that if you ask, are you in sales or operations, right? You don't know, right? You're somewhere navigating and leveraging all of this. Very good. So I have some questions here, which is great. So next question is about types of investments do companies need to make in view of the current COVID situation and the future? Sure, Ken, if you want to start with your thought about it, investment to deal with COVID and future-proof.
Yeah, so I think first of all we need to know what does COVID entails, right? And in terms of the current situation. So I think just short term, we're looking at things like ART kit, right? So we need a constant supply of ART kits, right? And we are already aware that the government will not be supplying us in the long term, right? So they will give us a batch to start with, and then we are expected to then put in our own measures to procure more, right? So having a team, having our procurement team, in fact, look into what is the most cost-effective way to ensure that we have a constant supply of such ART kits. I think that's first of all some consumables in terms of investment that we do need to ensure that we are compliant of the current COVID situation. The other type of investment I would look at is actually more of a general office or general warehouse hygiene kind of factor. So I think with COVID, we have actually invested a lot into cleaning contracts to ensure that there's routine cleaning across all our warehouses. So just to share, right, right before COVID, we were operating from one main warehouse. But because COVID hit, we knew that we had to decentralize our operations. Otherwise, if the warehouse go down, we have to stop business, right? So we are now operating from over 25 warehouses in Singapore alone. So that single cleaning contract has now increased 25 times, right? So investment in cleaning and ensuring that whenever there's a positive case, we have a disinfecting team come in to clean up the premises so that we can resume operations as quickly as possible. To the extent that before MOH or MOM comes in to inspect of us, we already have all the documentations to submit to them, and they were like, oh, okay, you guys already done what you're supposed to do. So investing in a team to just purely focus on preserving and ensuring safety, I think that's another avenue. Yeah, so I would say these are the three kind of investment: consumables, overall cleanliness and hygiene of our premises, and then a team to actually ensure that all these things are being taken place. I think that are the three most powerful investments we can do in the short term to ensure that our current COVID situation is taken. In the future, I think it's a little bit hard to tell at the current moment. We do need to see how the government is taking a little bit more endemic approach to the situation, and then we can make adjustments from there. So yeah, I think we have to wait to be told to see how that will pan out.
Very good. Thanks so much, Kenny. Now one for Roger. What would you suggest for someone that's just graduating now and about to enter, the supply chain world in terms of specific studies or specific courses to develop any skill, any particular tip for someone to complement their education?
Yeah, I think once you graduate from the school and you gain basics knowledge about the industry, it's still not sufficient for you to really contribute to the logistics. You still need to pick up hard skills, and hard skills is only true by doing the job. So my advice for graduates, the first thing you do when you come to the logistics industry, learn everything. Don't complain. Learn about finance, learn about warehousing, learn about IT, learn about sales, learn about operations, learn everything. The reason why I say that is because you need to have an overview of logistics, how you works, so that when customer present a problem, you quickly can really find a solution to it. Of course, one very things I see very lacking for new graduates is soft skills. You are super knowledgeable in what you're doing, but you do not know how to present it to the client. You do not know how to convince them that this is the best solution. So this is things like this, and of course the other one I would suggest very strongly is which I pick up very lately is IT skills. Learn it, man. Like it or not, learn it. There's so much technology out there. It's really ready for us to use it. And final things. Today business, I agree with Kenny. I don't have a very big IT team. Data analytics is super important in our business. You need to look at data. This is the future. So that's my 5 cents worth of what you should be looking at after you graduate.
Thanks so much. Good ones. I rush here because we will have quite a number of questions, which is a great thing. We might not answer all of those because of time, but the ones we don't, we will try to respond by text through ESG and try to get them distributed. But we have time for a couple more. So maybe for you, Kenny, about you talked about exciting developments with robots for last mile delivery. How far away do you think we are into wide scale in implementation of that? And what are the foreseeable problems of implementation in terms of, for instance, reduction in labor force and so on?
Yeah, so I think to break down the question into a few parts, right? So I think the first of all is how far are we away from using it as a wide scale or as a main form of delivery? I think we are still quite a while away, and the reason being is because we have yet to break the privacy portion of ensuing robots, right? Because with any autonomous engine or autonomous vehicles, whether is it for ferrying people or whether is it delivering parcels, there has to be some kind of navigation system in place. And the best technology right now is actually using camera, right, to map real life traffic, right, to navigate through real life traffic to reach a destination from point A to point B. And with PDPA being such a huge pillar within the industry to ensure data security protocols are ensured, I think that itself will be a very, very big hurdle that we need to overcome. How do we ensure that the whatever video footage or camera footage that is being captured is not used for the wrong means? I think once we have some direction, or we have some clear directive from the government how we're going to overcome that, I think that's where we will start to see a lot of the innovations kick in, and a lot of more companies will then be involved, right, in using such technology, right? Just talk about drones, right? It's the same thing, right? How do we navigate drones if we were to use that as an option, so that and prevent it from filming into residences and ensuring that is smart enough to avoid people and not knock into them, causing injury. I think once we can overcome that portion, things will speed up. And yeah, to the last point about reduction in labor forces, etc. I would say actually right now we are in a huge resource crunch. I'm not sure if Roger feels it, but we are having a lot of difficulty getting physical labor, and as a result, even the office team like myself or even Jody, who's in the call, we are activated to go down and support operations from time to time, especially during the peak periods of the months where we have the 9, 9, 10, 10, 11, and 12 sales, largely because we don't even have enough labor force to go through our day-to-day operations. So with technology and robots or even autonomous vehicles coming in to support operations, I think it will complement the problem set very, very well. it will help us overcome some of these challenges and bottlenecks that we are facing in the industry. So I don't think the reduction in labor cost is the cause for concern at the current moment. But I think there's a lot more room to grow, particularly with regards to technology and robots, etc.
Thanks so much, Kenny. We have a happy problem here with questions that we won't have time to answer. Like I mentioned, I think we will try to cover them later, but I just wanted to finalize thanking you very much, Kenny, and thanking you very much, Roger. Thanking you very much, Enterprise Singapore, for hosting the event. Thank you for everyone that came to watch here. And just invite maybe Roger and then Kenny straight after for some final message, a tip, an advice you would give to the young talents that are joining the industry.
Yeah.
Roger, you want to go ahead first? Yeah.
Yes, thanks very much. So my takeaway for the young interns or the young graduates, when you graduate from this industry, don't focus only on one topic. Just learn everything. Like what Kenny says, learn everything. That will come useful to you later in life. You need to have the overall spectrum of logistics. Then only you can give solutions to the clients. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess for me, I think don't be afraid to try, right? Don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves and get down and do the dirty work on your own, because that's actually the fastest way to learn. I always like to give the analogy that there's two big groups of people in the business, right? There's one who will always be out there throwing stones at a glass tower, right? Hoping to break some of the systems and the processes that we have fought so hard to build. And there will be another group of people who are inside the glass tower, just waiting for something to break and then immediately go and sweep up the mess and fix it. All right. I think we need to be in the latter group of people who are embracing that there will always be things that will break down. There will always be issues. There will always be challenges. But having the mentality to dive in and fix it on the spot, I think that will be a key skill that we can have, right? There's so many times that I see people just staring at the issue, discussing among each other, wondering what's the best way to do it, when all it takes is a pair of hands to go and lift up the parcel and then get it out of the way. Everything else will then take its place, right? So I think having that mindset and having that grit to really push through and not be afraid of getting your hands dirty, I think that is a key skill that we need to own. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. So my final message is a big welcome to the new talents that are coming. Come, we need you. We need your new different perspectives. You need to tell us that have been doing this for a while where there are potentially some paradigms. We need your passion to make a difference and to help create a better world that we know that you have a lot of challenges. And we know for sure that through transportation, logistics, supply chain, a lot of difference can be made, whether it's through food distribution, climate change, and so on. So welcome to the industry. Challenge us, tell us where we can do better, and we look forward to working with all of you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you.
Hi, are you guys ready to do a photo?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll cue you guys. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Philippe. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, take care, guys. All right, see you. Bye.
Bye.